15 of the fantasy football season, and here's a few quarterbacks I would drop this week. The first guy, Cam Newton of the Carolina Panthers. So Cam Newton, it hasn't been a great return tour here for him to the Panthers this season, and now him and PJ Walker are going to be splitting time over the next 3 games of the season here for this Carolina Panther team, and obviously that's not good for fantasy owners or even the Carolina Panthers, because really, how could a quarterback get in rhythm if he's only going to be in a few plays and taken out or in certain situations? So Cam Newton over the last few games here for him, Week 11 versus Washington in that game, he had a great one, 189 pass yards, 2 touchdowns, 46 yards rushing, and a touchdown. Week 12 in Miami, 92 pass yards, 2 windows, 5 rushing yards, and a touchdown. He got pulled in that ball game pretty early. In Week 14 versus Atlanta, 178 pass yards, an interception, 47 rush yards, a touchdown, and a fumble loss. So right now, with a tough matchup in Week 15 at the Buffalo Bills, that give up the least amount of fantasy points to quarterbacks, and him and splitting with PJ Walker, there's no reason to have Cam Newton on your team anymore, and he's an easy quarterback to drop this week. The second guy, Derek Carr of the Vegas Raiders. So Derek Carr, it's been an up and down season for him this year. Some weeks he has monster weeks, and some weeks he don't do nothing. But now, since Waller's been out for this Raider team, the numbers have really plummeted down for Derek Carr, and this Raider team has now lost 4 out of 5 ball games. The last few games here for Carr, Week 12 at Dallas on Thanksgiving, 373 pass yards, a touchdown, 21 rushing yards. Week 13 versus Washington, 249 pass yards, 24 yards rushing. And then Week 14 at Kansas City, they got destroyed 48-9 in that ball game. Only 263 pass yards, a touchdown, an into, and a fumble loss. So right here in Week 15, it's a ball game on Saturday night at the Cleveland Browns. And we know this Brown front four brings a lot of pressure. They could get to the quarterback, and I just can't trust Derek Carr. Even if Waller comes back, the most you're going to get out of him, in my opinion, is 20-25 fantasy points with decent options on the wire this week. So in a tough playoff game for fantasy owners, there's no way I would have faith in Derek Carr coming through and putting up a big game. And he's a quarterback that could be dropped. And right now, he's still owned in 67% of fantasy leagues, but he has been dropped in 11%. And the third and final quarterback I would drop this week's Ryan Tannehill of the Tennessee Titans. Ryan Tannehill, similar situation with him, just like Derek Carr, where he's lost some weapons, no doubt. A.J. Brown's been out. Derrick Henry's probably not coming back till Week 18 when the fantasy season is over for most people. And right here, Julio Jones, I know he returned in Week 14's ball game, but he just hasn't been the same in the last few seasons. So the last few games here for Tannehill, Week 11 versus Houston, 323 pass yards, a touchdown, 4 interceptions, 3 rush yards. Week 12 at the Patriots, they got blown out in that one, 93 pass yards, a touchdown, and he threw 24 yards rushing. And then Week 14, he had a mediocre game versus a very bad team in the Jacksonville Jaguars, 191 pass yards, 29 rushing yards, and a rushing touchdown. So Week 15, mediocre matchup at the Pittsburgh Steelers that give up the 17th most fantasy points to quarterbacks on the season. But this ball game, I think, is going to be a grinded out. A.J. Brown, his main weapon, is out. And obviously, it's a big loss with Derrick Henry not in the backfield to open up the passing game. So right here, in a round 1 playoff game, there's no way I would trust Tannehill as my quarterback. And right now, he's still owned in 66% of fantasy leagues. But I would drop him this week, so that's a few quarterbacks I would drop here for Week 15 of the fantasy football season.